everyone, it's Amber Spotted Elk at the Paper Owl. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to be doing 3 DIYs today. All of these are super fun, super easy, and all of them cost $5 or under. So please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know which one is your favorite. Also, we are still doing a giveaway. If you haven't watched my first video, go check that out for further details. And without further ado, let's get started.
Hello. Okay, we are going to get started on our first project today with this gather sign. Got that at the Dollar Tree, great find. And also this frame that I had that I picked up at the Goodwill. I'm trying to get it in frame here, sorry about that, but I paid $2.99. Actually, I think it was on sale for 50% off, so $1.50. I took it apart to begin with because the backing and stuff was actually kind of hard to get rid of. I'm just showing you that there's actually plastic there instead of glass. We're not going to use any of that stuff. We're just going to use the backing and the frame. I'm going to start by removing the hanging piece off of the gather sign. It's stapled in there pretty good, so I just cut the string off. It was too hard to pull. So now that we have that off, we're going to go ahead and get started on painting it. And I'm going to be using the Waverly white chalk paint, which is of course everyone's go-to, it seems like, but it's a great paint. It has really nice coverage, it goes on really smoothly, and so that is what we are going to do here. I'm super excited to make this sign. I mean, this gather piece was $1 at the Dollar Tree, and then like I said, I think I paid $1.50 for that frame. So all in all, we're in this for $2. Excuse me, $2.50. Here I'm showing you I took the sanding sponge and went around the edges. The edges kind of had a roughness to them. And so in order to give it kind of a cleaner look, I went ahead and sanded around the edges. I mean, only for a minute, it didn't take much. So we've got our sign all painted. I ended up putting 2 coats on it just to get really good coverage. You'll want to make sure the top and the bottom are all painted very well as well, because you'll be able to see those. The back of it doesn't really matter. You can see I didn't really paint the back of mine. If you want to, because it makes you feel better, then absolutely go ahead and do that. But the back is going to be glued down anyway. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our frame, and I'm going to just do a little distress painting on that as well. Oh, I'm sorry. That is not what we're doing. We're doing the back first. So we're going to be decorating the back just in some scrapbooking paper. And I got this at Hobby Lobby. You can get 4 sheets for $1. So this was 50 cents. I forgot to include that in the price, so I'm sorry. We're in this for a total of $3 now. So a great price. What I'm doing here is I'm matching up the block pieces. So you can see there now it's matched up in the middle. Those black and white pieces all match up very nicely. So I'm just laying that over, making sure we have good coverage. And I'm actually going to use Mod Podge to glue this down. You can use whatever type of glue that you feel comfortable with. I like Mod Podge. I don't have an issue with it. I also like this Eileen's tacky glue I just showed. Both of them are really good glues. I ended up going with the Mod Podge though, just because I feel like it's going to have more lasting coverage. The Eileen's is just as good. It just depends on your preference, really. I mean, you can use Elmer's glue to glue these down if you want to. I hear people have good success with that. So, and again, I'm using my Cricut tool to make sure all the bubbles are out and making sure that that really adheres. You can use a credit card to do this as well. Anything with kind of that hard flat surface. So now we're doing the other side, making sure we have really good coverage over the whole back piece. I like to add a little water to my brush as I'm applying the Mod Podge. It just helps it kind of go on a little bit smoother. Again, I'm lining up those middle pieces there. And then I am going to go over again with my Cricut tool to just smooth that out and make sure that there aren't any bubbles, that the Mod Podge is getting moved around back there. And then we're going to flip it over, and I'm just going to check the spots around the edges and make sure that the edges are all really nicely covered. So any spots that I'm able to kind of pull up that the Mod Podge hasn't adhered to, I'm going to add a little extra Mod Podge there just to make sure we have really good coverage. So you can see me pulling the corners there and just adding a little bit more. I don't want it peeling up at all. So those little edges, they do matter, because once they're pulled up a little, then it just makes it that much easier for them to continue getting pulled up. And then I take a baby wipe and go down the middle where that crease is. Any Mod Podge that seeped out will sometimes leave kind of a shiny residue, and so I want to make sure that I go over that with a baby wipe to get that cleaned up. I start cutting the scrapbook paper off with scissors, but I really didn't like the cut that it was giving me. I didn't feel like I was getting a very clean cut. So I took my rotary cutter, and this is such a great tool. I wish I would have started using this a lot sooner. I just have a Fiskars one, and it just allows you to get right up close to the edge. Now these are typically used for fabric, but really any cutting that you want to do with it, that go for it. You can see I'm obviously not using it for fabric. And it's so great. It has this nice little cover on it. It just kind of pops over the sharp edge to protect it, and then that's it. So it allows you to kind of butt up right against the edge there and get a really nice clean cut. I absolutely love my rotary cutter. I've had it for years, and I just recently started using it a lot more, and I couldn't be happier with it. It's just such a really good tool. All right, so now we've got it all cut, and next we are going to take the frame and do the distressing. So I'm just going to use the same Waverly White chalk paint. I'm going to dry brush on there, so I'm not going to get my brush wet at all. I'm going to stick it in the paint, and then I'm just taking a little piece of paper towel and dabbing most of the paint off of the brush, leaving just enough so that I can get a little bit of coverage on the frame. I still want the wood to be showing through, so I'm just lightly brushing over the frame just to give it a little bit of extra texture and a little more interest. This is absolutely not necessary. If you like this look, then absolutely go for it, but if it's not something that you're into, you can go for just the wood frame. You could paint the frame all white, you could paint it all black, that would look good too. So it really is personal preference. I'm just here to inspire you guys, so whatever makes you happy, then please go for that, or whatever goes with your decor. We're now slipping this in the back. It was kind of hard, so I'm sliding it in there, and then I've got to get all of those pieces down. I'm using my bad scissors here, just so you guys know. Trying to get all those pieces down. So I went ahead, got all those pieces down, so that's in there nice and tightly. We're going to use super glue as well as hot glue to glue this to our backing. So I put super glue in just a couple places along here, and then I'm going to go back in with hot glue on all the places that do not have the super glue. And that's just going to make sure that we have immediate hold, and then we have the long-term hold once the super glue dries. And you just stick it on there, and easy peasy, you guys. Such a great sign. Really, you can use any time of the year for $3. $3. That is just absolutely amazing to me. You would pay much, much more in store. I just showed there, the frame actually came with some hanging materials. I'm just going to take some twine and double it up, create a couple knots at the end, and then I want to make sure that it's in the middle. So I do take my ruler and measure out how big the frame is so that I can make sure that I'm getting the hanging piece in the middle, because nothing is more bothersome than a crooked picture. I mean, tell me you guys feel the same. It's just something I can't handle. So I definitely did break out the ruler for that one to make sure that we get a nice even hanging frame. So I put some hot glue down first to get it in place, and then I'm going to put some super glue on there, and then again some additional hot glue. And this is just to make sure that this hanging piece stays on here well. The last thing you want is for your DIY home decor piece to fall down when someone walks next to it and the breeze hits the frame. So next up, we are going to be doing a tray, and I absolutely love trays. They are just great. So you can see it's kind of reflective, so I'm moving it off camera a little bit, but this is from the Dollar Tree. It is a good size. It's about 16 inches across, so it is a good size tray. One thing with it is plastic, and so it I don't want to. We're also going to be using the nautical rope and then this black jute that I have on hand. And then I'm going to be painting the tray in this Waverly chalk paint in the color ink, which is basically black. And then also covering that in Mod Podge. So I put the Mod Podge down on the tray first, and what that's going to do is help the black paint adhere to the tray, because when you're painting something plastic, there's always that tendency for the paint to want to peel up. And because we are gluing the nautical rope down to the tray, I want there to be that Mod Podge and paint barrier, just to make sure that the tray is not melting when we put the hot glue down. I did test a little spot and there wasn't too much meltage, but once I put the Mod Podge and the paint layer on, there was no melting when I put the hot glue down. So I was really happy. So we have our layer of Mod Podge down. I am taking my heat gun tool to dry that. If you don't have a heat gun tool, then use your blow dryer at home, but I am not one to want to wait for things to dry, so I absolutely recommend using something to help you dry your products. It just makes it so much easier and faster. So now we're putting our layer of paint down, and what's nice too is if anything is showing through once we put our nautical rope and jute down, there is a nice black layer under there, so it doesn't look as bad if maybe there's a little open space. So I dried that as well. And basically all we're going to do is we are going to take our nautical rope and start swirling it in a nice circle. So you hold one little piece down and then glue a spot right next to it, hold it down, make sure that it's sticking, and then just continuously do that all the way around. And you're going to do this for the whole entire tray. So I think I did 3 packages of the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. So The tray itself was $1. The nautical rope was $3 since I used 3 packages. And then the jute cord I already had on hand. It was actually gifted to me, so I'm not including that in the price. I'm not even sure how much it was, but I'm pretty sure you can buy it for, I think, like $2 at Hobby Lobby if you have a coupon. So it's very inexpensive. But I'm putting this tray together for $4 essentially. If you want to include the jute cord that I use, then then maybe it's $5 because I didn't even use maybe a quarter of the black jute, so I didn't end up using very much of it. But you can see I'm putting the hot glue down. The tray is not melting underneath, so super excited about that. But you see I just butt the ends up next to each other, and once it's all done, you can't even see the spaces where those are connected. And there we have it. You see I put the black jute around the edge the same way I did the nautical rope in the middle. I am going to add some handles to this. I feel that no tray is complete without some handles. So I do make the handles very long so that they go through over half of the tray on the underneath side. And that's just going to make sure that they're really secure so that if someone does come up and pull on those handles, they're not going to just break off. And I'm going to do that for both sides. And so what you do want to make sure is that if your handles go past each other in the middle of the tray there, you don't want the rope to be glued on top of each other. You want it to lay next beside each other, the ends to lay beside each other, and then that way you make sure that your tray lays flat. So you can see that I'm just putting the ends of the rope right next to each other. And that is just going to ensure a really strong hold and give you some nice good handles. The tray is a pretty good weight after you have all the rope on there, and so I did test this out once the handles were dry and they picked it up just fine. I don't know that I would carry stuff around with it on the handles though. That you, if you're feeling brave, then absolutely give give it a shot. The next thing I'm doing is adding a couple dollops of hot glue and making sure those handles stick up a little bit. I didn't like them laying out flat to the side. They looked kind of like ears or something. I don't know. So I just made sure that they were standing up. And next is our pumpkin sign. I was super excited about this. I took the craft knife and just worked my way under that aluminum up top to peel that off. It did take a little bit of work, but it wasn't bad. I tried getting that glitter autumn sign off and it was not happening. So I just took the back of the sign. I took my Cricut tool and got under that glue that was back there, and it surprisingly was coming up fairly easy, much easier than trying to get that glitter off of the front of the sign. It was unreal, you guys. I tried wiping it down with alcohol. I tried my craft knife, but I didn't want to scratch the metal. It was rough, and so it was much easier just flipping it over and getting that glue off of the back side and giving you a nice clean surface that doesn't have any doesn't have any scratches on it. So here you can just see me working at that. I was able to use the craft knife to get some of this off without scraping it as well, just because the glue was so thick on there. So once you get close to the metal though, I would not recommend using the craft knife because it's just too easy to scratch it. And then at the end, I'm just able to rub the last little bits off with my finger. And we have a nice clean piece of galvanized metal there. So that is just absolutely cute. I love that. The autumn will just go on the back now. I mean, if you want to leave the autumn up there or try going over it with some paint, you could absolutely do that. The next thing I do is just sand down these edges. The paper was trying to come up a little bit off the sign, and so I just was making sure that I had a nice clean surface to work with here. So I'm just taking my sanding sponge and getting all of those edges nice and clean. One thing I like to do once I'm done with the sanding is just to take a wipe or a wet paper towel and wipe all of that off to make sure that no residue is left on there. And then I take this beautiful scrapbook paper, and this I had in my stash from a Michaels paper pad that I had got last fall. I am using Mod Podge here as well. I am only doing the last four rungs of our pumpkin, I guess. And then I'm spraying my scrapbook paper with water, and that just helps it really adhere to the Mod Podge to give you a nice solid coverage and a nice solid sign, so you know for sure that your paper is not going to be peeling up. I take my Cricut tool again and run that over, and then I'm just cleaning up some of the Mod Podge that seeped through on the back, and then I'm taking my craft tool and cutting. And don't make this mistake, guys. I did not wait for my paper to dry, and so I ended up ripping while I was trying to cut, and it just did not turn out okay. So I ended up having to actually pull all of this paper off and adhering it. And so you can just, yeah, you can kind of see it really rip there. So I redid it, and then I let it dry, or I dried it with my tool, and then I cut around here, and then I take my box cutter and use that to cut through, and that worked pretty well. You can see I go back to drying it a little more because it's still just a little wet, and I didn't want to tear any of the paper again. So just make sure your project is dry before you try cutting. One thing I would recommend too is taking off that twine string. I end up removing it after anyway, so I would take off that twine string now that's holding all the planks together, and that'll just make the cutting a little bit easier. So I do cut and separate all the pieces and then end up removing the twine string. So I would just start off doing that, and it'll make your life a little bit easier. And it's super easy to come off. I literally just took it and pulled it off. It there left a couple staples in there, and I was able to grab them right out, no problem. So, and you can use any color paper that you want with this project, you guys. I loved this kind of orange floral to give a little hint to the fall season, and then the nice navy blues on there, and just something a little bit different. I do love the traditional fall colors and designs as well, but I thought I would do something a little bit more fun with this pumpkin. So you can see now that the twine is off the back, and I've got all of those pieces spread out. So I'm taking a craft knife and just going around the edges. Again, you can also use the rotary cutter. I don't know why, but it's never my first go-to tool. I should just know better by now because it is a great piece. But I'm taking the craft knife and going along the edges and getting all of the extra paper off of there. And so I go ahead and do that for all of the pieces, and just make sure they're nice and clean, and none of the paper is kind of hanging over the edge, because if it is, there's more of a chance for it to catch and then start pulling on the rest of the paper. So we have that one nice and clean now, I think. Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them, and then once they're all done, I am going to take the sanding sponge and go around those corners and really make sure that I have all of the edges cleaned up. Next, we're going to paint the top of the pumpkin with Waverly chalk paint in moss. I really like this color. It's kind of a sagey green to me, but I thought it'd be great for the top of our pumpkin. I was going to leave it in the brown because I don't mind the brown, but I thought the green was just a little bit better to go with the scrapbook paper, and I liked it better. So I'm painting along the edges of that as well, because that is something you're going to be able to see. You're not going to be able to see the back, but again, if you like to paint the back of your stuff, then absolutely go for it. And this is going to require 2 coats of paint. There was still just a little bit of brown showing through, so I went ahead and dried that first coat and then added my second coat on after that to give it a nice good full coverage. And this chalk paint is so great for that. And just so you guys know, this chalk paint is for the texture of it. This is not chalkboard paint that you write on and are able to erase from, just so you know. I know some people have a little bit of confusion with that. So here I am drying that second coat, and then once that is all dry, I will take the sanding sponge again and just go along the edges and just give it a little bit more of that distress look. I'm not doing it too much, just enough for a tiny bit to be showing through there. And most of this is going to be covered up with our aluminum piece anyway, but I want to make sure that I have nice coverage. And we are just going to glue our aluminum sign on now. So I'm just going to use hot glue. I use Gorilla Glue sticks and get that on there, and it looks so great. I love how this is coming together. So next, I'm just cleaning it off. I am using some rubbing alcohol because I am going to put a little decal on there that I made with my Cricut. Now, you could use Dollar Tree stickers, you could paint on here, you could leave it plain even. It looks so beautiful even plain. So this little Cricut decal, I just typed in grateful, thankful, and blessed, which all of us should remember daily. It's crazy times we're living in right now, and I think we all have a little bit more to be grateful for than we think. So I go ahead and get that added on there. Looks super cute. I'm flipping these over backwards because I am going to add twine on here now. I'm not going to use the twine that was on there previously, but this twine that I did get from the dollar store. And you're just going to want to make sure that your planks stay evenly separated, because if they are crooked, then it is going to hang crooked. And so again, just keep those straight as you glue. Make sure that you're keeping them even, and you can see I'm at each one making sure that they're nice and straight, because I don't want it to hang uneven. So I'm doing that on both sides and leaving extra for it to hang up at the top. And this has turned out so adorable. I have not seen these signs at the Dollar Tree before, so I'm not sure. I think they're new this year, but I could be wrong. I don't have the best memory, so comment below if you've seen them before. And finishing up that last piece there. And I'm letting this dry for a moment before I flip it over. And just checking on it, making sure it's dry. Oh, it is looking so adorable. I decide that I want to put some twine along that the pumpkin stem there. So you can dress this up any way you want. You can leave it like that. You can put, little sprigs of stuff here and there, however you want to decorate it, whatever makes you happy, whatever fills your heart with joy. I just absolutely love crafting and creating, and thank you guys so much for watching my video. It really means a lot to me. This is something that I've loved doing for so long, and I'm so excited to get to share it with all of you. So we got that all wrapped in twine now, and I'm opening this ribbon here, and I'm trying to decide what kind of bows I want to do. And this is just a orange plaid from the Dollar Tree, orange plaid and burlap, which is super cute. I found this other orange ribbon I got from the Dollar Tree, as well as this other plaid one. And what I'm doing is I'm just rolling the ribbon on top of itself. I'm pinching it in the middle, and I'm tying it with a Chanel stem or a pipe cleaner, and just pinching it right in the middle. I'm sorry you can't see what I'm doing very well. If you go over to Olivia's Romantic Home, this is where I actually learned how to do this type of bow. And so it's such an easy bow to make, and you can see I just cut off the extra of that Chanel stem. I glue it on top of that orange one, and you just keep kind of fluffing and zhuzhing your bow up a little bit, giving it some height. And then I put that orange and burlap plaid right in the middle, and you see me still just kind of fluffing that bow up. So there are all of our projects, you guys. So the gather sign, I just decided to add some extra fall pieces with a bow and some of the floral, all from the Dollar Tree. So still so affordable, something you can use year round, but I like the floral or the fall pieces for decorating it for the season. And our tray, I mean, it makes everything look so much better in my opinion. Like I said, just a couple things on here and a nice floral bouquet, and it really brings it together nicely. I absolutely love that. And then lastly, of course, our beautiful pumpkin. I mean, that bow just really brings it up a notch, I think. And then our nice little saying on there, that beautiful paper. And again, you can use any paper you want, you guys. It just looks absolutely gorgeous. I thank you so much for watching today. Please let me know which one of these is your favorite. Like, comment, and subscribe.